So it does that in an intelligent design. And the reason we do that is because we weren't made, right, to constantly eat. When we were first designed, we were more hunters and gatherers. And so what we had to do is we had to go hunt our food or gather our food. And we did that. When we ate, our body did a good job of storing that energy for a later date. Okay? Makes sense. Now today, we kind of abuse that because we have tons of convenience stores. You know, we can get food no matter where it is, and we just don't put our body through the struggle it needs to burn what we already have. Okay? And so what we really do is kind of mess up the system. So in a perfect world, we would be storing fat. By the way, fat's not bad for us. We want fat. And then as our body needed energy, our body would break down that fat, and we would use it for energy until the fat was kind of depleted, and then we'd feed ourselves again, and we'd do that whole cycle over again. Well, in our society today, because of the improper foods we eat, the toxins in our environment, the different things that go on in our system, instead of the body breaking down that fat like it's supposed to, the body demands sugar, and instead of breaking down your fat and getting glucose that way, it tells us to do what instead? Eat, snack, you know, that mid-morning snack, the mid-afternoon snack, that coffee break or whatever we need to do to get energy. We do that instead of getting the resource from our own body. So, how does cortisol specifically play a role in fat loss? Okay? Well, cortisol, when it's too high, as I mentioned already, prohibits the protein in the liver from going and breaking down fat. So if I don't have the proper protein to go get the fat, because my cortisol levels are too low, what's the likelihood of me breaking down fat? Probably pretty slim, right? And vice versa, when we're under lots of stress and the cortisol levels are too low in our body, we can't break down our fatty acids. And so again, we can't take the fat cells in our system and break them down. So when we're under lots of stress, our cortisol levels eventually, you know, they initially spike up, right? So what happens probably to the rest of these hormones? They start decreasing, right? So again, a lot of times through a hormone cascade, if cortisol isn't properly checked or at least addressed, a lot of these other hormones will just stay out of balance. And this is why when you go to your doctor and you get checked for estrogen or testosterone or progesterone, you may have a level that's low and inadequate, and when you do add it to it, you know, it can give you some symptomatic relief. But if that cortisol level was never checked, what's the likelihood of that thing being a long-lasting thing? Or as soon as you get off this medication or the supplement, what's the likelihood of it changing again? And the answer is it always will, and it will continue to do it. So what we like to do in our office is we like to identify what your cortisol levels are, A, and then B, teach you some strategies to reduce your stress and improve those levels. Because if we know we can do that, we can help you from a natural perspective get these hormones in check, and then certainly help you break through some of those plateaus, certainly the weight loss stuff. You know, typically when you first start exercising or losing weight, you're going to be successful. You're going to lose some water weight, and you're going to lose some different things if you're just starting out. It's those individuals that have been eating right or exercising really hard and they just can't seem to get where they want to be. Those are the people that really need to really have this evaluated, because this is most likely a key component to why you're not quite getting to that level yet. So on your sheet, I put some examples of what you need to do to reduce your stress, which, you know, add exercise. Exercise is a fantastic way of doing it. Sleeping better. Perfect world, we'd sleep 8 hours, right? I know, we all have children, we all have busy jobs, but the reality is, research shows that proportionally to the less hours you sleep, the more likelihood you're not burning fat. So if you're getting 6 hours or less, you're not going to burn the fat, okay? So you've got to get more than 6 at least. Ideally 8, and the best hours to sleep per your circadian rhythm is 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. 10 p.m. 6 a.m. You can try to get that, that's ideal. Take time to eat, right? How many of us eat on the go, right? We're even stressed while we eat. Eating is supposed to be a time to sit down, relax, enjoy it, digest your food. Most of us don't even digest the food that we're supposed to have because we're eating so fast. We're on the go. 20 minutes is ideal. And that's an eternity, trust me. I tried it. I put 20 minutes on my clock, and after 5, and I was done. I was like, what am I supposed to do for 15 minutes? So you have to sit there and try to do it. It's tough to do, and I'm not perfect, but certainly it's something you want to try. Breathing exercising, breathing from the belly. A lot of us take deep breaths with our chest. Breathe into the belly and breathe out. So that's a relaxation. Prayer and meditation, those are also good aspects of reducing stress. And so how do we test our cortisol levels? There is a blood test for cortisol. And if you went to your doctor and asked about hormone testing, they probably didn't test that, right? And they don't, because cortisol testing in a blood situation is either too much or too little, and the parameters are really big, okay? So you're either going to have what they call Addison's disease or Cushing's disease, or you're going to have nothing in between, okay? So most of us, if we went and got our cortisol levels checked through blood, they would tell us everything was okay, even though most of us are what they call hyper or hypoadrenia, just not quite to the disease state. Also, I mentioned the word circadian. That's because cortisol fluctuates throughout the day. It's highest in the morning, gives us our energy to wake up and alert. Shouldn't need coffee to get out of bed. If you do, it means your cortisol is too low. And then as the day goes on, it should decrease so you restfully go to bed at night, right? So if you're wired at night, your cortisol's off, okay? So we test it that way using saliva, okay? The best way of doing that is we have a little take-home kit you take home. You put a couple samples throughout the day, and what it does is it maps it throughout the day. It gives us 2 important key ingredients. It tells us what your levels are, A, but B, where it's messed up during the day. So we could be very specific with you about lifestyle and dietary changes, what you can do to manipulate that correctly. So, the other little screening test you can do, and I'll put it on this sheet there, is iris contraction test. Simply go in a dark room, look in a mirror, take a flashlight, shine it across your pupil there, and your pupil should what in light? Constrict. So if you're in the dark, it's dilated, it should constrict, it should stay constricted. If it fluctuates, goes wide, it means your adrenals could be weak, okay? The second thing is a blood pressure test. Your blood pressure should be higher when you're standing versus lying down, okay? When you rise, your blood has to get pumped to your brain, so your blood pressure should increase. Take your systolic and diastolic blood pressure, that's the top number, systolic, so it's 120 over 70. Take that, stand up, do a second blood pressure, that should go up 10. If it goes down or doesn't change, chances are your adrenals are insufficient. So that's another little thing. And lastly, it's called Sargent's white line. Take a little eraser or thing and just draw a line up your abdomen in the mirror. And if a white line expands, that's another clear indicator of adrenal insufficiency. Disclaimer on that one though, it's really only positive about 40% of people that have it. So again, it's not the best reliable tool. All these things are great screening tools, but nothing beats an actual test. And so that's really what I want to encourage you guys to consider if that's something you're worried about. The second thing I wanted to cover in addition to hormones is your liver. Because the liver has 2 main functions. The first thing it is to detoxify all your blood. And the second thing it does is metabolize all your fat. Okay? So if your liver isn't working, you don't metabolize fat. Okay? So clogged liver, bad fat loss. What clogs livers, do you think? Fat? Yeah. Cholesterol? Yeah. Liver makes cholesterol. Fat's emulsified by the liver. Toxins. Yeah? I mean toxins, right? We all live in a toxic environment, right? Unfortunately, between the things in our air, the food, the sprays on our foods, the cosmetics, the different things that we use, we're bombarded by toxins every single day. Statistically, there's about 80,000 registered toxins in the United States. That's 5-year-old data, and who knows how many are used. Out of the 80,000, they say about 4 of it has ever been tested for safety measures. Out of the 4,000 that's been tested, none of them have been tested synergistically. And what that means is what one does with the other. How many people have picked up a shampoo bottle and only saw 1 ingredient, right? It's got 20 on there, and so we don't know what it's doing to us, okay? This is interesting. An average woman every day puts 520 chemicals on their body. 520. So if you look at makeup, shampoo, conditioner, this lotion, whatever, In men, we're about 250. So every day we're lathering on our biggest organ, which is our skin. If you shouldn't swallow something, you shouldn't put it on your body either, technically. Okay, so the other rule of thumb is you can't pronounce it, don't use it, right? Okay?